We are going to start with the defensive line breakout candidates. And we're going to move a little bit quicker on defense because obviously offense rules, defense drools. So first, I'm going to go with Javon Dexter Sr. of the Chicago Bears, a guy that many would argue broke out last year. I would argue that he broke out last year, but I'm going to be hammering the table until people start talking about this dude. Put some respect on his name, like Birdman said. Put some respect on Javon Dexter Sr.'s name. He's going to be an integral part of this defense. He's going to be somebody that needs to win one-on-ones. There are going to be guys getting double-teamed for the Chicago Bears. I anticipate a lot of blitz action, and with that comes one-on-ones for these guards. Javon Dexter Sr., productive at the defensive tackle position. Look for him to be a household name this year.
I love it. I remember watching him at the Florida Pro Day, and he might have been the second best athlete there after Anthony Richardson. And it was just a matter of playing with consistency. And we talk about that a lot with these young players. I'm going to go with Moro Ojomo. A lot of Debo love here out of for the Philadelphia Eagles out of Texas, former 7th round pick. And again, shout out to Howie Roseman for finding guys on day 3 that somehow just magically fit into what they do and do it at a high level. Milton Williams is gone. He's now with our guy, Mike Vrabel in New England. And towards the end of last season, Ojomo was playing more than Jordan Davis in terms of rotational stuff. So I think his role is going to increase, and I want to see what it looks like, because a lot of times when you draft these guys, especially late on day 3, they check a lot of physical boxes in terms of measurements or you talk about the RAS score, things like that. And he's found a way to put it all together, played big-time college football, so that wasn't a concern. But he's been more consistent the more he's played, and I think he's going to have a much bigger role and what Vic Fangio likes to do up front, which is just win with 4 guys, and he's certainly capable of doing that. So I'm interested to see what MO, that's my nickname for him,
MO
does next season.
I love that. And I'm going to go with a guy who has probably already broken out, but statistically he ain't broke out yet. Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle, Seattle Seahawks. This guy is an animal, okay? He's one of those dudes that you would circle and say, yeah, I don't want to go block him. Like I said, not a lot of production, but impressive, explosive, athletic ability. He's like a 4'8" guy, and he is an absolute monster. But I think it's his run game that stands out to me, and it's going to be a huge part of what the Seahawks are going to try to do. They have to stop the run if they want to have a chance. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks on their offensive side of the ball with the exodus of talent at the receiver position and the quarterback. So going to need that defense to be huge this year. And if it's going to be, Byron Murphy II will be a big part of that.
I don't think in fact, I know I have never seen a bigger calf muscles on a human being than I saw Byron Murphy II in person. They were waist. Ryan Wilson.
Deion Dawkins and Byron Murphy need to have a calf off.
I asked Byron at the Combine a couple years ago. I said, so just a question I typically ask interior offensive and defensive linemen, anybody that gave you a hard time, struggle with against one-on-ones over the course of the season? He goes, no, nobody. And when you watch him play at Texas, that sort of, he was telling the truth.
Buddy, I'm telling you. And another guy who didn't have a ton of competition, at least in his last year in college, we're moving on to the edge breakout candidates, Donovan Ezaraku, okay? Boston College. He had 16 and a half sacks last year. He's going to a team that is going to be commanding double teams elsewhere. He will have the opportunity to compete for a lion's share of snaps. Obviously, opposite a dude that we know well, Micah Parsons. I think he has an immediate impact on this team and a part of that big youth movement in Dallas. And if Shoddy's going to have success, he's going to need for these young guys that they swung for to show up.
Yeah, and they actually had a really good draft class. We talk about Tyler Coulter, of course. One of the issues I had with Ezaraku early in the season last year at BC was that he struggled against the run, but I thought he got better. And again, you're not bringing him in to be a stout, set the edge guy against the run. Maybe he can get there, but he's going to be a guy, hair on fire pass rusher day one. A guy, different build, but similar expectations. And he's going into year 3. Isaiah McGuire out of he plays for the Browns, went to Missouri, former 4th-round pick. And the reason why I love him, because on the other side, you have some guy named Myles Garrett. They drafted Mason Graham. So he's every bit of 275. And he came in as a sort of a set the edge run defender, but he's got a little juice as a pass rusher. So he's going to be seeing one-on-ones no matter what. Like, I can't envision a situation unless Myles Garrett breaks both his legs and both his arms where there's going to be any reason to double team Isaiah McGuire. So if he wins one-on-ones, then it's a wrap, because that defense is going to be somehow better.
I mean, I'm just trying to think what it would take to break Myles Garrett's arms and legs. It would be like a Sherman tank, maybe head on full speed. All right. Well, another guy who I really like here, and we're going to move on to the linebacker candidates, and it's another Packer, so I'm going to get killed for this, Edgerrin Cooper. Okay. Edgerrin Cooper in 491 defensive snaps had 77 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, 4 passes defended, an interception, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. This is from Packers.com. Edgerrin Cooper looks the part, which I think is a big part. He's productive, and he's productive in a number of different ways. He's going to get the entirety of the snaps this season, so probably nearly double what he had. So we can anticipate maybe doubling a lot of these stats. So 77 turns into like 154, 26 tackles for loss now, 7 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. I'm just doubling everything. 8 passes defended, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries. If that ain't a breakout season, I don't know what it is. But Edgerrin Cooper, I think he's going to have a huge year.
So this is who I was talking about at the beginning of the show, who I thought had a really good rookie season, and you had him on the list. And I was like, oh, I'm interested to see what year 2 looks like. Because last year on the podcast, we go back in the fall and watch some of the rookies we'd watched in college to see sort of where they were. We talked a lot about Edge Cooper because on a field full of insane athletes, he flashed a lot in terms of what he could do as we sort of evolved this sideline to sideline, off-ball linebacker can do everything, which brings me very neatly to Tyrice Knight out of UTEP, 4th-round pick. Mike McDonald's defense in Seattle. And he reminds me a little bit of Ivan Pace Jr., who was undrafted that sort of balled out, and Brian Flores' defense in Minnesota. Tyrice was a day 3 guy, a little older, I believe, coming out, had a really good Senior Bowl. I remember that. And then he just hit the ground running last year. Now he's going to be in year 2 in Mike McDonald's defense, which obviously can sometimes take time to let it all sink in. And he's going to be running things in the middle of that defense with Ernest Jones, who they have now. And I think this team, they drafted Nick Manwari, maybe one of the best athletes on planet Earth, at the safety position. And you talked about your guy, Byron Murphy. I think this defense has a chance to be good. We'll see where Sam Darnold is and all that. But I think this team is going to look more and more like those Ravens defenses did with Mike McDonald before he took that job in Seattle.
All right, so we're going to move on to the cornerback breakout candidates. And those of you who know me know that I just, this ain't my strong suit. But I took a list. I took a list of guys who I thought were going to have good years next year, better than last year. And a dude who jumped out to me, number one, because I like his name, Drew Phillips, Drew, D-R-U, with the New York Giants. He's in Shane Bowen's scheme up there in New York. And like Vic Fangio, it's a bend but don't break, stop the run type defense. And obviously people fell in love with Wink Martindale's defenses. They want to blitz. They want to have these pressures all the time and be aggressive. Well, the defense in New York right now is we're going to beat you up front, and we're going to make you play patient on the outside, and we're going to tackle well on the outside too. And I think Drew Phillips is a guy that's poised to be appreciated by that fan base in New York. And if you're appreciated by the fan base in New York, you will have success in all the other media markets as well. Drew Phillips, run and pass, is a good guy to have on your team.
Yeah, and he was a fun guy to watch coming out, and did have a good rookie season and one that he can build on. And a lot of times it feels like when you're talking about cornerbacks especially, there can be a sophomore slump just because cornerback is such a volatile position to play, less so than maybe the closer you get to the ball, offense, defensive line, what have you. All right, I'm going to go with Jerry Jones out of Florida State, 2024 draft class. He was a 3rd-round pick. Big physical cornerback who had a really good rookie campaign. And I listed him here for a couple reasons. He played well as a rookie. He's probably going to play a little bit more outside this year because they signed Jordan Lewis in the offseason, but also because if you look at the unofficial depth chart, the name behind him, let's see, some guy named Travis Hunter. So, that will probably push him on some level. I think Jerry's going to be the guy. You're not going to play Travis 50, 60 snaps a game. But he can play outside. He can play inside. He's good in man. He's great in terms of run defense, and that's probably not something you want Travis doing a lot of if you got him out there trying to fit these C-gap run, D-gap run fits or whatever. So I think Jerry Jones has an opportunity to continue to build on what he did last year in a completely new defense. So I went with Jerry Jones playing outside for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right, so those are our corners. We're going to move on to safeties now. And one team that I'm always watching very closely because they're obviously a ton of fun to watch offensively. Well, they need to get better on defense, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. And, Lou Anarumo, I was there with a Chiefs jersey on when it became Burrowhead. I was there when Lou Anarumo pressed the right buttons, when Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow went nuclear in Kansas City. Well, they're going to need some guys to go nuclear on the defensive side of the ball. And Trey Hendrickson's done that, but you're going to need somebody on the back end. With that being said, it's going to be Jordan Battle, a guy who has been in and out of the lineup. They've had a number of guys, obviously more veteran heavy there in Cincinnati at the safety position. But I think Jordan Battle is going to be a day one starter for the Bengals. He's going to be somebody that Al Golden really leans on to be part of that youth movement. And I always talk about it. You want your young guys playing up mentally. And I think Jordan Battle's a guy that they're going to have to lean on. And if the Bengals do have success defensively, he'll be a big part of it. He'll be a name that we all know.
Yeah. And the biggest way to help these young defensive backs is to have guys who can get after it. And by that, I mean, don't make Trey Henderson mad and sign Shamar Stewart, your first round pick, and allow them to rush the passer. So we'll see how that sorts itself out. Just feels like somebody's self-inflicted gunshot wounds to the face when you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Just get out of your own way and let Joe Burrow do his thing. In honor of Mike Renner, I'm going to end this with a Packers guy, Evan Williams. Played. Hey, here's the link. He went to Oregon as well. So we got the full circle here on the push in the pile. And he didn't run well coming out. I think he ran the 4.6s, but man, he plays like with his hair on fire, and he is all over the field at Oregon. And he flashed that last year, and he played more and more down the stretch, even replacing Javon Bullard, who was drafted in the 3rd round, and Evan was a 4th round pick. So they have him. They have Xavier McKinney, who I believe had 8 interceptions last year. And the role is going to be expanded for Evan Williams. And, 4.6 or not, he played a lot of deep safety last year. He can play in the slot if you need him to. He can play closer to the line of scrimmage. So he provides that versatility, allows you to move Javon Bullard to the nickel if you need to. And then, of course, Xavier McKinney. They have some questions at cornerback. We'll see how that sorts itself out in terms of Jay Alexander's time in Green Bay and how much longer that will be. But that secondary is not going to struggle because of Evan Williams. I think he's going to build on what we saw last year and continue to be an important part of what they do in that Jeff Hafley defense. Excuse me.
Can't stand the Packers, but my God, they've got some talent on both sides of the ball.